But, I would just say trauma it's a loaded term in some ways.
Yeah.
And it's also become a very popular term right now. And, I'll just speak to it from my perspective on it, which is a bit of a Buddhist perspective, which I would say in Buddhism, one of the Four Noble Truths, one of the premises is that suffering exists. We're humans, we're in bodies. No, we're going to stub our toe. We're going to get sick. People we love are going to die. Things are going to happen. We are going to have experiences that are unpleasant. Trauma, to me, is part of the process of being human. It's something that we will all experience, but there are degrees of it. And so if we can kind of boil it down, I'm really speaking in general terms. So just to kind of give a context for how we work with it in depth hypnosis helps people address trauma from very complex trauma to less complex traumas. But I think you can look at trauma as an overwhelm, something that causes overwhelm in your life, something that's too hard to handle. Your brain kind of shuts down in a particular way. And so and seeks to protect you. And when that happens, that's when parts of the self can become separated, or what we call in depth hypnosis or in certain shamanic practices, soul loss. Right. So I think that and when we look at the cultures that we come from, and I like to think we're changing in this attitude, but a lot of times people don't want to admit that they're hurting, that they don't want to admit that they see being traumatized by something or overwhelmed by something as being weak. So for a long, long time, we've been trying to override this idea that something's wrong. And yet when we can address that something's wrong, and be with what that is, that feeling, what that scary feeling or that sad feeling, but whatever that overwhelming feeling is, which is usually the trauma aspect of the trauma that's trying to get your attention,